All right. Well, welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. It has been a while that is on us, but we are doing this episode to basically kind of backfill in kind of why that has been the case with a lot of things going on, not only with the ongoing pandemic and all the changes for everybody there, but also three of the hosts have transitioned through a couple different things over the past 6 months, and beyond that we'll have some other exciting news that we'll just hold off until we get through all of that. So what we want to do is just kind of touch base with everybody here, kind of give you an update on where we're at, and we actually promise you that the week following this there will be another episode and then some to come after that as well. So we're doing okay there. So first, I think let's turn it. This was Austin's idea, so we're going to turn it over to Austin, who has had quite the ride over the last year in terms of everything. But just kind of fill us in on what you were doing, how it
Right,
was, and what you're doing now.
right. So yeah, I've made kind of a big change, both location and setting. So prior to my new job, I was a college athletic trainer. I was working Division I baseball, and that was my first year as a certified athletic trainer. I was really fortunate to. We had a really good first year for me. Um, Actually, we won the Division I national championship. So it was a long year, and as I'm sure all athletic trainers in the quote traditional setting will know, it was there was a lot to it, especially with the added COVID layer. But I'd say it was probably as good of a first year as any on the team aspect of things. But yeah, I actually recently transitioned to a new job, a little bit closer to home, up in the Midwest. It's a little bit more to my liking. It's a little too warm for me once you hit Tennessee. But so yeah, actually back in Wisconsin, back actually in a private setting at the moment. So I'm working as both an athletic trainer and a strength and conditioning coach. So a little bit of both of my favorite worlds at this point.
If you're just listening to this and not actually watching it on YouTube, Austin has a humble brag national championship flag right behind him. So if you are watching that, that's something to catch. But Austin, just wanted to ask you a little bit because I know you and I obviously stayed in touch to some degree kind of during your time with what you were doing, and maybe just some of the things you found out or about yourself, or even like the setting over the course of your time down there, and then kind of transitioning to I guess an emerging slash non-traditional type setting that you're doing now.
Right. So off the bat, coming out of school, college, the traditional setting was kind of what I was interested in. And baseball is a sport that I had the most interest in. I've done a couple clinical rotations through baseball, so that was definitely my wheelhouse. And my last year was in grad school. My last rotation was actually right at the start of COVID when everything shut down. So that was actually cut pretty short. But I actually got another opportunity through that to go to Mississippi State and be one of the two athletic trainers for baseball there, which is something that I guess it's becoming a little more common as I went through the season, especially within schools and bigger conferences. But in most um, schools for baseball, they only have a single athletic trainer, which, yeah, I was fortunate to work with another AT who's been there for over 10 years. So as a first year adjustment period, I was in pretty good hands. And it was definitely someone who helped me out my first year navigating kind of the ins and out, especially with being thrown into the fire a little bit. Like I said, COVID kind of challenged all of us. And as that part, we were trying to do an additional job there, which made me grow up and kind of learn how to do all those traditional AT things, running your athletic training center pre-practice, doing all these treatments, trying to multitask 4 or 5 different athletes all at once. So, I mean, it was stressful, but it kind of showed me that kind of prepared me how to do that. And I think even not being in that setting, that ability to work under pressure and kind of multitask is something that is extremely valuable for me to take away, even right now in my position where it's a different type of stress, but it can still has a lot of carryover. So I think that was one of the biggest benefits. And especially coming from an experienced athletic trainer, one of the things that I like to do, and I'm sure Joel can attest to it, is I kind of pick and take little things from everyone. So Joel was actually my preceptor in grad school, and I knew him for a little while before then. So I've taken things from him. I've taken things from my previous baseball preceptors, not from my first boss. It was a really good learning experience, and even though I'm not in that setting anymore, still has a lot of things that carry over for me. And like I said, I transitioned to a new position that's actually in a private performance facility in Wisconsin. So about half of my time, I am a strength and conditioning coach where I work with groups, teams, but from athletes to the general population. And as a strength coach, but then I also do some athletic training stuff when it comes to we do treatments, we do assessments, we do all these things and work with physical therapists to can if we have clients who have dysfunctions, or if we have clients who are seeking extra stuff outside physical therapy. So it's really fun because it kind of bridges the gap between kind of that sports medicine, sport performance / general fitness world, which is something that I'm enjoying so far right now. So trying to take it all in at this point. It's still learning a little bit as I've only been at that job for about 2 months, but so far so good. It's different, and I'm using my athletic training skills in a different way, but it's still a valuable experience for me, I think.
Sounds good. And then we got Greg, who you two just figured out is literally up the road from you. It sounds like, at least from the text messages, which I know wasn't planned, but just happens to work out. But Greg, if you want to fill us in on your summer and then what you're currently doing. And again, if you're just listening, not watching, Greg's apparel pretty much hints at what he was doing this summer, but I'll turn it over to you.
So graduated in May from lacrosse, where I was spending some time with Joel at Mayo Clinic and at the university there. But yeah, July rolled around and I got an opportunity to go to Denver. Worked with the Broncos for a little under 2 months. It was a fantastic experience. I mean, I know I've heard a lot of things about the NFL summer internships and kind of about the work that is done there by the interns. But I can definitely say that it was a lot of learning and hands-on experience in the actual training room, out on the field. So I got a lot of, just really good experience, a lot of good insight. All their staff is, basically some of the best athletic trainers that I've ever been around. They were great mentors. Everything they do is just extremely efficient. I mean, they're putting in during training camp, us as interns were putting in 80, 90 hours, and they would beat us there and then, stay later than we would. So it just kind of gave me a newfound respect to that level of athletic training and just that whole population group. I mean, the athletes were phenomenal, obviously with, physical talent, but they were probably the nicest group or nicest team that I've been around. Very respectful. It was just really eye-opening all around. I mean, I knew it'd be a great experience, but every piece of it was kind of everything and more for me. So it was very inspiring to be around that and get the opportunity to work with some of those guys. So I guess, my kind of end goal career aspirations are somewhere up, in or near that level. And I think that it was just a great way to kind of get my foot in the door and really realize what, the day-to-day is all about as, a member of that sports medicine team. So I was there for, a little under 2 months, like I was saying, and then jumped right into the job scene. So I am currently in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I actually got I got lucky finding the job, but I have, um, zero point 0.5 FTE roughly at a clinic, which that just hasn't started yet for me. A lot of moving pieces with the company that I'm with. But eventually I'll have about zero point 0.5 in the clinic, just, ortho and sports med. And then the other zero point 0.5, I primarily spend at it's actually one of the largest high schools in the state. So there is a full-time athletic trainer there. And then I come in for kind of that 0point 0.5 and just help out in the training room, help out when we're kind of double booked for home things, just there to kind of support and then take some of the events that I obviously want to cover as well. So that's been really an easy transition from, being young into my career, just having, a full-time person there to, bounce ideas off of, or, ask questions, or just kind of, it's nice to kind of just cover time for each other, obviously, especially with the end of fall season here. It's been very busy. So it's just been nice, getting a few hours off here and there from kind of covering for each other. So that's been really enjoyable. And then I kind of mentioned that my clinic time hasn't started. So recently I've been doing a lot of the Milwaukee public school system. They don't necessarily have the funding for athletic trainers at those public schools. So our company does a really good job of just getting around and covering events at the stadium. So that's definitely one of the more rewarding, settings and things that I've been a part of, is being able to help out with some of the public school events. And I hope to kind of help out even as the clinic aspects, starts rolling a little bit more, just to be able to kind of be around that population group. They really appreciate kind of the smallest things, which, just shows how much they really do need an athletic trainer at some of those schools. But, handing a kid a bag of ice and they're thanking you, 4 or 5 times, their coach comes over, talks to you for 2 minutes about it. And it's just, it seems like even if you do kind of the bare minimum, they really, really appreciate it. And so that's been just a really nice piece to find this early in my career, is just kind of feeling appreciated like that. And not that I don't feel that, at the high school that I'm at either, but, it's just been nice to travel as much as I have around the city and still, feel as useful and as helpful as I have just about everywhere.
That's awesome. Random question about your time in Denver. Is Dr. Mike Leahy still working with the Broncos?
Yes, he is. So I guess for those that don't know,
that stuff.
Yeah. So I did learn a decent amount. He kind of handles a lot of it just on his own. But yeah, Dr. Mike Leahy actually created or started ART. Still flies around doing obviously his certification courses and whatnot. Very busy guy, but yeah, probably one of the most knowledgeable guys I've spent time around. I mean, he is so intricate in his functional anatomy that it's hard to wrap your head around. Obviously I'm newer to the profession, but, I've always been very intrigued myself by, a lot of those intricate details and, a lot of the smaller ligaments. And he assesses somebody and he'll tell you what he's working on. And it's like, man, I haven't heard of that ligament, or I haven't heard of that, really being an issue for people. But he really, really digs down to kind of that 1% of functional anatomy and is able to have great results. And that's why he's kind of built the empire that he has. But yeah, it's nice that he's on staff with the Broncos. So really any ART, they just kind of get to free up their hands for, 20, 30 minutes and have Dr. Leahy, take over. So that was a great thing to be a part of.
I remember going to a course, and then I knew the chiropractor that works with the Chiefs that I worked with when I was at Kansas was talking about how he has basically like MRI fingers. Like the guy just can palpate and find things that most people just can't. It's just uncanny to all the things that you just said. He just has this weird ability in a good way to do it. So I knew he had worked out there, so I was just curious. And then for me, just a kind of brief wrap up, because Greg had kind of referenced it. I've recently not recently, I guess it was April, so not super recently, end of April, made the jump out of the collegiate university setting to a sports medicine clinic, working with our Gen Med sports med physicians and also our sports med orthopedic surgeon. It's been a huge change of pace, with plenty of pros and obviously a couple cons, but really enjoying it. Kind of a similar thing. You learn a lot. You learn things that you just know you didn't know, because you never really paid attention to it. So different joints and injection sites and all kinds of different things. And I've now seen more arthritis in 6 months on that job than I had ever even considered possible, just because we do a lot of ultrasound guided injections, which has been really interesting just to learn some of the ultrasound based stuff. So it has been a unique change, but a good one in that regard. And then at the same time, also got myself involved with state association leadership as one of the representatives of a region. And that's been interesting. Wisconsin just made a big move of getting physician signature removed from our protocols. So it opens up athletic trainers to do a lot more on their own without having to have that overseeing physician, which can open up some entrepreneurial things, as I'm sure Austin and his boss are exploring, which is good. And it's good. It's good for the profession. Just gives a little bit more autonomy with some things. And honestly, for some of the physicians, I gotta imagine it takes a little bit of a load off their mind when ATs are going out and covering anything and everything. So that's been interesting, and hoping to continue to get more involved with everything with that, just to try and do it at a different level. So yeah. Any other updates from you two?
The only other thing that's new with me is I have a dog now. That's about it.
Nothing wrong with sharing the dog.
Yeah.
I'll have to get like a little ATChat bandana or something to rep out.
Oh yeah, she'll wear it.
Fair enough. Well, then, kind of, if you've been watching, you've probably seen that there's a fourth person on. If you check this out, but if you're listening, you haven't heard anything, as she has been quiet. But we are adding another co-host to the group, and we've actually had this conversation quite a while ago, but it just, with all the craziness and the changeover, just haven't been able to get things going. So we wanted to formally introduce Dr. Mercedes Himmons to the team, and just let her kind of fill in a little bit about herself. Obviously, if you've been following the show at all, she has been a guest on the podcast, and that's how we connected, and have kind of stayed in touch ever since, and watched her finish up her PhD journey to get that doctor. And so, yeah, we're excited and looking forward to, after everything calms down a little bit for her, as it's been kind of crazy, and she decided to jet set across the world to go on vacation, which looked awesome. But I'll quit rambling and just turn it over to you to kind of fill in where you're at, what you're doing, and just a little bit about yourself for the people.
Okay. I'm trying to think of the last time I was on. I'm pretty sure I was still in school, but
Yep, I think so.
I finished unscathed, so I'm still in one piece, and now I'm doctor, but nothing's changed. I'm still Mercedes, and I still get weirded out when people call me doctor. I don't think I'll ever get used to it, but whatever. And I am still at Cal U, soon to be Penn West University. There's an integration going on with 3 schools on the western side of Pennsylvania and 3 schools on the eastern side of Pennsylvania. So it'll be very interesting to see how things play out in terms of making sure that each campus retains its identity that it's had thus far. So I guess that's exciting in my work world. I'm still with women's basketball and women's soccer, and they're keeping me very busy as usual. That year and a half or 8 months or whatever that I had off because of COVID might have set me back a little bit because I feel like I'm running around crazy, but it'll calm down once soccer is over and I can just focus on one sport. But
Sure.
It's the lay of the land. And even though it's crazy, I still enjoy what I do and my patients, my coworkers. So that's fun. And as you said, I have started to make time for myself. So it was very interesting to take a week-long vacation during the middle of the fall. And I feel very fortunate that I was able to go to Cairo, Egypt for basically 5 days because 2 days were travel days. We visited a friend that we know that lives there and rode a camel on. It was just crazy, like a camel ride at sunset next to the pyramids. Whoa, I never would have imagined, but it was a little scary. It's not like riding a horse, and I don't think people will understand until they actually did it. And you're in the sand, so it's a little nerve-wracking. But it was very, I would say it's one of my favorite trips thus far. The pyramids were just amazing. And I can say, like, I've seen the Eiffel Tower, I've seen the Vatican, I've seen the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and none of that compares to the pyramids. They are huge. And you just think like, whoa, humans did this. Because apparently people think aliens did it, but humans built that. And it was whoa, climbing through somebody's tunnel to get to their tomb. I wanted to make sure we weren't opening anything to bring back any bad juju.
Yeah.
So far we're still good.
There's a lot of movies about that, so I'm glad that you
exactly. I was like, is this safe? Like, can we do this? And it's a real thing. So yes, that was like wow to see, like the walls, the hieroglyphs are still on the walls, and the colors that they've used are still very well preserved.
Nice.
And you can see like the wax that they use so that they can keep it preserved, I guess. And I was just like, man, this is almost 5,000 years old. Like, wow. So it was one of my favorite trips because I love all things ancient Egypt. So it was like, yes. So now I'm just thinking where to go next. Probably next summer, but we'll see. Have to survive the school year first, and then that'll be my next thing. But that's really where I am, just taking everything day by day. And I'm excited to be a part of the host staff crew for ATChat. And I think we'll have a lot of fun.
Agreed. And you'll have a short trip in theory next year for a convention. So,
right. It's, in my city, I'm excited. I'll be present, and I'll tell people where to go for real cheesesteaks, not the tourist cheesesteaks. Just say no. And water ice and pretzels, because people don't know the combo. So you have to have a real water ice with a soft pretzel, not like a blendini blended together that people seem to think what I mean.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to get out there, so I'll look forward to that.
No problem. Just stay with me, and I'll take you where you need to go.
Well, we just wanted to introduce our new host, kind of update everybody. We'll get this obviously out as you're listening to it and get rolling with some new episodes. As always, if you're listening and you got a story to tell or just a topic you're passionate about, let us know. Send us a message on any of the social medias. If you happen to know anybody, any of the hosts, reach out to them. We will definitely want to hear your story. And with that, before we sign off, anything else, anybody?
All good.
There's a lot of head shaking going on, so we'll take that as we're good to go. Well, we appreciate everybody still listening. We're looking forward to getting back and getting consistent with everything, and we will talk to everybody soon.